Working with other people can be, to put it mildly, one of the most frustrating experiences on Earth. Tobio Kageyama, one half of the iconic duo at the center of the Haikyuu anime, knows this better than anyone. During his time as the setter for his junior high volleyball team, he saw his teammates as dead weight, holding him back, and he would scream at them for not hitting his sets correctly. To match his egotistical attitude and playstyle, his teammates gave Kageyama the unaffectionate nickname King of the Court. And to top it off, during their last game together, they revolted, refusing to hit any more of his sets and sending Kageyama to the bench. Given that his life goal is to essentially play as much volleyball as possible, this was devastating for Kageyama. What's more, it made him terrified of being abandoned ever again. Luckily, during his time at Karasuno High School, Kageyama learns the value of teamwork, eventually shedding the dreaded King moniker altogether. So why, after 2.5 seasons of development, does Hinata recrown Kageyama, encouraging him to become a king once more? Many see this as a major step backwards in terms of character development, but in fact, it's the exact opposite. I see it as the conclusion to one of anime's best arcs. Here's why a king of the court is sometimes exactly what you need. So, Kageyama's experiences in junior high made him extremely insecure, constantly afraid that his teammates would turn on him. Despite this, he was still very self-centered when he started at Karasuno, believing himself to be a better player than even his more experienced teammates. Basically, teammates were a necessary evil to Kageyama, evidenced by how he wishes he could set, receive, and spike all by himself. This is where Shoyo Hinata comes in, an orange-haired shorty who, despite locking horns with Kageyama, promises to hit every one of his sets no matter how annoying Kageyama is. Although intrigued by Hinata's extraordinary physical gifts, Kageyama is frustrated by his lack of training and initially disregards him altogether. However, when he's forced to rely on Hinata, Kageyama decides to tailor his style of play to suit Hinata, rather than demanding that his teammates rise to his skill level and hit his extremely difficult sets. Kageyama adjusts to accommodate his teammates. Two soon develop an incredible quick attack, and Kageyama becomes even more of a team player, constantly asking his spikers where they want their sets to go. Over time, Hinata develops as a player, and Kageyama even adjusts their quick attack to give him more agency. It's easily one of my favorite character arcs in anime, just for how satisfying it is to watch this egocentric tyrant turn into the goodest of good boys. But it's not quite done yet. Because although learning not to be a jerk is a crucial step, there's a difference between accommodating what your teammates want and actually bringing out the best in them. When Kageyama is invited to the national volleyball training camp, another talented setter, Asumu Miya, makes fun of Kageyama. He says that Kageyama too easily caters to every whim of his spikers. He calls him a goody two-shoes, which is confusing. It makes Atsumu seem like another evil king Karasuno must defeat. And after all, as Coach Yukai says, the best set is the kind a spiker can most easily hit, right? This question comes to a head during Karasuno's practice match versus Date Tech, where Karasuno keeps getting destroyed by their opponent's superior blocking. Kageyama quickly becomes more and more frustrated until he finally snaps. He seems disgusted with himself, and the resident jerk Suki claims it's the return of the king. But then something strange happens. Hinata asks what exactly is wrong with Kageyama becoming a king again. He talks about how Kageyama became a setter because he loves to control every part of the game, and he shouldn't have to hide that part of himself. His teammates chime in, saying how as long as Kageyama isn't too mean, they'd be fine with him telling them how to improve and what to do. As this is going on, Kageyama's face is a strange combo of fear, awesome hair that I can never replicate, and confusion. Being a king and telling everyone exactly what to do instead of listening to them is what led his old teammates to abandon him. Now he's afraid that if he slips back into his old ways at all, his new friends will do the same. But there's a pretty fine line between being a tyrant and being a leader. In junior high, his advice was never the issue. It was that he would scream said advice while also refusing to meet his teammates halfway. And while it's nice that he's learned to listen to his teammates, Kageyama actually overcorrected and became afraid of giving any input. But Kageyama, despite his faults, is a certifiable volleyball genius, and by not taking advantage of his intelligence, Karasuno was stunting their potential. Learning how to give feedback is a deceptively challenging part of not just sports, but life in general. You have to be kind, but at the end of the day, you also have to correct what they're doing and put them on the right path, which can be an especially tricky line to walk. It's no cakewalk to receive feedback either, as I am painfully aware of, and it's easy to feel as if the criticism is too harsh. But once you get to that place, where everyone is okay giving and receiving feedback, this communication allows for remarkable improvement. Kageyama was afraid that taking on a more assertive role would cause his teammates to turn on him. But first of all, he's much more willing to be nicer to his teammates and take their feelings into account now than he was at the beginning of the show. Really, his return to the throne is only possible because of his previous character development. But even more importantly, while Kageyama appointed himself the king of his junior high, his teammates at Karasuno actually asked him for his input. Hinata, not Kageyama, is the one who places the crown back on Kageyama's head, and so begins the reign of the benevolent but nonetheless authoritative King of the Crows. Kageyama soon begins to draw out Karasuno's potential, no longer passively doing whatever his spikers want, but instead telling them how to succeed. Instead of giving Tsuki the usual low set that he likes, Kageyama forces him to jump up for it, extending his arm just enough to hit over Date Tech's blockers. When Tanaka calls for more sets, Kageyama instead tells him that he's tired and needs to be subbed out. This does not go over super well, but Tanaka does understand Kageyama's point, while Kageyama learns he needs to be a tad less direct with him. Now that Kageyama's no longer afraid of losing his friends, he can put his knowledge to good use. It's very easy to look at the Return of the King as a bit of character regression for Kageyama. Like, after all this time he spent learning to rely on others, his team is just okay with him becoming a jerk again. And while I should first point out that he's obviously at least trying to be much nicer than before, that's kind of the whole point. His team is okay with him taking on a more proactive role. The reason he wasn't able to do this at Kitagawa Daichi was because he never earned the respect of his teammates, never showed that he cared about them in the slightest. But at Karasuno, his friends are the ones who put him in charge. He has a clear gift for controlling the game, and it's only because of his teammates' confidence in him, as well as his newfound compassion for others, that allows him to take the throne. In this way, it's not a regression, but a culmination of his character arc, one that pushes the envelope far further than most stories attempt to. But that's just what I think. Thank you for listening.